NXT starts off with what's supposed to be a number one contendership match for the North American Championship, but plans end up changing. This match ended up getting set up due to last week where Ricky Saints was basically looking for new challengers, and he basically ended up running across Javon Evans and Ashanti having a back and forth, and then this ends up getting then Sean Legacy ended up getting into the mix due to the argument between Javon and Ashanti was due to Ashanti not respecting Sean Legacy due to him being in the indie scene and all that. So this ends up becoming a triple threat. This was a banger match. This was a great match. Surprised me. I was shocked that this match went as long as it did, but this was a great match. But towards the end of the match, you end up getting Javon Evans ends up diving on the outside because Ethan Page ends up attacking Ricky Saints, who was on commentary. They end up brawling on the outside. For whatever reason, Javon Evans decides to dive onto Ricky and Ethan Page, even though it doesn't make sense for him to do that because it's not like they was interfering in the match, so I don't understand why he did that. But I understand why they did it, but logically it doesn't make sense. This allowed Ashanti to take advantage, but Ashanti ended up taking too long. He was taunting on the top rope. This allowed Sean Legacy to end up picking up the victory. Now, I wanted Ashanti to win. I really did. There was a moment where I actually thought he was going to win, but I thought that the clear option was Javon Evans, to be honest. But they ended up going with Sean Legacy, who is a new, he's on Evolve, I know that. And he was great in his match, so I'm interested to see what they do with him. Now, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. The only thing is, are they going to continue to push him? That's my only thing. Because the NXT has this weird track record in the past year where they push a wrestler mainly on the men's side and then they stop pushing him for months. They done it with Eddie Thorpe. They done it with Dark State as of now. They done this with Lexis King to a degree as well. They done this with Ridge Holland. They have a track record of pushing guys and then they just disappear. So I'm hoping that they actually push this guy and you constantly see him on television. Because I do not want this to be another example of them pushing a guy and he just disappears. So hopefully, whenever they do have the match between Ricky Saints and not Ethan Page, and Shawn Legacy, I'm hoping to see that match, and hopefully that match is a banger, because I know next week Ethan Page and Ricky Saints are going to have a match, so we don't know when Shawn is going to have his match, but it's going to happen sometime after Ethan Page and Ricky Saints, so interested to see how that plays out. After this, we end up getting Trick Williams. He ended up having his rap performance. He ended up dropping a diss track towards Joe Hendry called Average Joe. This performance was not terrible. It was good, but it wasn't. It was better than I thought it was going to be. It was better than I thought it was going to be. Okay, I wasn't shocked by it. I wasn't amazed by it, but it wasn't terrible. I would say that it picked up towards the end. I would say that the crowd start chanting along with the hook. I'm gonna be honest. The hook is actually kind of somewhat catchy and is actually stuck in my head. So overall, the performance was decent. It wasn't a bad performance. It was better than I expected. I understand some people, if you say it was trash, I get it. But for me, it was more impressive than I thought it was going to be. So for me, it was just okay. It wasn't as bad. So overall, it was a solid performance. Him and Joe Hendry ended up both having their own little concerts, taking jabs at each other, which I thought was cool. A cool way to build up the rivalry. So I thought it was good overall. Afterwards, we ended up getting Josh Briggs versus Shawn Spears. Now, I wasn't really going to talk about this, but the only reason I'm talking about this was due to what happened towards the end of the match, where Shawn Spears picked the victory due to interferences of the calling. The story mainly here that they're trying to tell is that is Josh Briggs the main issue with all his friends constantly leaving him, with Fallon Henley and Brooks Jensen, and then Inamura, who just went back to Japan. So they're telling the story of is Josh Briggs the problem in his friendships. Shawn Spears picked the victory, but then after the match, due to Shawn Spears cheating, Josh Briggs gets angry, attacks Shawn Spears. The calling, of course, ends up coming in to protect Shawn. Then you get Hank and Tank come in to protect. They end up making the save to protect Josh Briggs. And this is going to be a 6-man tag team match at Battleground. Don't know why this is at Battleground. I really don't. I can see the vision of the calling going after the tag team titles, so that could be interesting. But yeah, I don't understand why this is a 6-man tag match at Battleground. I understand why they're having the match, but at Battleground though, like really, like we're just gonna throw this match in the card? It's whatever. I would just have this on NXT. I would just have this on next Tuesday, but they're having that Battleground. We'll see how that match plays out. Now we end up getting Oba Femi versus Myles Bourne. They end up having their interaction. This was a really solid promo. It was nothing major, Not too long. It didn't overstay its welcome, which I like because I'm like, please do not drag this story out. Basically, Oba ends up mentioning that he has respect for Myles, mentioning Myles' disability, ends up mentioning, Myles overcoming the odds, but he ends up saying that all comes to an end at Battleground when he eventually is going to fail. Then Myles basically ends up mentioning that he always been underestimated. He had to always overcome the odds, mention his disability, mention that this match is bigger than the NXT title. He's doing this for other kids who go through challenges every single day, and that he's going to prevail at Battleground. Nothing too major, but this was a good promo from both guys. But then afterwards, we end up getting a new one of the LFG winners of the show that WWE has, LFG, one of the winners who was officially signed to NXT now. I think his name is Jasper. He ends up attacking Oba Femi after the segment, and then you end up getting Myles Bourne picking up the championship after Oba got attacked. He ends up recovering and he ends up handing the championship back to Oba, and they have a stare down. I like what they're doing here. This is another example of I like what they're doing here. I just hope they continue to push him. They done this with one of the Evolve guys with Sean Legacy. Now they're doing it with this guy Jasper. I like what they're doing here because you need to build up more men's in the because NXT has a men division problem. The main roster has a women's division problem. They don't know how to book either side consistently. So hopefully they continue to push whoever this Jasper guy is. I like his look. I see the vision. I can see the potential. I don't know how he is on promos or anything like that. I'm assuming it's going to take time because he is fairly new. But whatever it is, push these guys, okay? You're not gonna have Oba, you're not gonna have Trick, you're not gonna have these guys forever. These guys are not gonna be here forever. You gotta build new stars. So hopefully that's what they're doing here, and hopefully they continue. But overall, this was really good. Now we end up getting Tony D'Angelo. He ended up having a little vignette segment. He ends up mentioning, the friendship between him and Stacks, them growing up, them winning the tag team titles, them being, a dominant force. Then he ends up saying that, but all along that Stacks always wanted to be, the head guy. He wanted to be the leader, but he wasn't meant to be the leader. He wasn't ready to be in that position. He doesn't understand the weight that it carries and things that it takes to be, the Don of the family. This was an overall great segment. Love what they're doing here. This has been the best build towards Battleground. This and the Trick Williams and Joe Hendry feud. But this has easily been the best feud going into Battleground. This is the main thing I am the most excited about, if I'm being honest. This was overall great. Not gonna really go that in depth on it because I don't really need to. Because I would just be repeating the same thing over and over. But overall, this was great. This was a great segment. Really enjoyed it. Can't wait to see how this plays out. Very interested to see who wins this feud because I can see Tony D winning it, but I can also see Stacks winning it. I can see this being a 3-match series. This going a lot of ways, so very excited to see how this plays out. Afterwards, we end up getting Fallon Henley, Lola Vice. This match ended up getting set up due to Fallon Henley and JC Jane ended up interrupting Lola Vice. They start mentioning, the NXT title picture. They go back and forth. JC Jane basically ends up setting up Fallon. They're basically doing like the Grayson Waller and Austin Theory effect, where they both basically set each other up over and over again. They're clearly showing the downfall of Fatal Influence, which I don't mind. I'm kind of cool with them breaking up. To be honest, they kind of reached their ceiling, so I'm cool with it. I'm just interested to see who turns babyface, or is it a heel versus heel dynamic? So, but if anyone turns babyface, it'll probably be Fallon Henley. Lola Vice picks up the victory due to a distraction from JC Jane, but Fallon Henley was not able to capitalize off the distraction. Lola Vice picks up the victory, and then they show JC Jane and Fallon Henley arguing. So that's the main story here. We'll see how it progresses. We'll see if this is going to be a long-term thing or they're just going to do a short-term build towards this, because hopefully this is not a thing where they constantly build like they do with Austin Theory and Grayson Waller and then they never pull the trigger. Hopefully that's not that effect. Now Shawn Michaels typically doesn't have that problem for the most part. He done it before with with Malik Blade and Idris. I don't know if you guys remember them, but he done it with them. So hopefully that's not that situation, but I don't think so. So we'll see how that plays out. We end up getting Zarya versus Kehlani Jordan. They end up having a rematch. Kehlani wanted another opportunity due to her thinking that the last match they had was a bit unfair. They end up having a rematch. I knew the moment this rematch happened that Kehlani was going to win, but I do like the way she did win. We end up getting Soruka, and Kehlani ended up attacking Soruka. Soruka tries to, get her payback, but this causes a distraction from Kehlani and Soul. Zarya tries to attack Kehlani on a distraction, but Kehlani moves out the way, accidentally attacks Soruka. This allowed Kehlani to pick up the victory, do a roll-up. I like what they did here. So they're gonna have the match at Battleground. This made more sense to happen at Battleground because this has been building where the other match was just random. But now that's been building too, but I didn't feel like it had enough build. This has been building for like a good like month or so. So this make more sense in my opinion. But I like what they did here. This is great. This is slowly building up. Eventually, the Soruka Zarya feud with Zarya constantly interfering in Soruka's business, constantly being involved in the title picture. I like what they're doing here. So this is great. I love the build here. Overall, this show is really good. They did good booking from top to bottom. I really have little to no complaints. They did a really good job. The pacing of the show was really great as well. But this overall segment was really good. Then we get the main event. Joe Hendry, he ends up having his concert. He basically, the main shot that he really took was that Trick Williams was Melo's sidekick. No, Trick Williams was Melo's sidekick. Yeah, Trick Williams was Melo's sidekick, and he ends up basically saying that Trick Williams was Melo's bitch, basically. So that's the premise of what the main thing he was saying in his concert. Trick Williams comes out, and then he ends up attacking Joe Hendry, but Joe Hendry gets the upper hand. Because Trick Williams tries to go for a trick shot, he ends up hitting him with the guitar mid-air, and then he chokeslammed him. Overall, this was a solid overall segment. I like what they did here. Um, this was overall a really good show. This was a good way. This was a good go home show. Now I'm very interested to see how that Trick Williams versus Joe Hendry match goes due to Joe Hendry standing tall. But overall, this was a really good show. You guys let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, that's it.